Are you an investor looking to get exposure to Bitcoin and Bitcoin companies? Maybe the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund is for you. Joining us now to discuss investing in Bitcoin and its ecosystem are the managing partners of the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund, James Lavish and David Foley. Welcome, James and David.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Good to see you both. So James, I'm going to start with you. What is a Bitcoin Opportunity Fund? Tell me all about it.
Well, the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund is it's a hybrid public and private hedge fund, and it's focused on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin ecosystem. And how it came about really has to do with all the turmoil of this last year in the cryptocurrency and markets recently. I mean, there's been poor risk management, there's been poor overall management, and outright fraud. And this has had a huge negative impact to the overall space. And so, unfortunately, there's been quite a bit of contagion that's spread to Bitcoin and Bitcoin related companies, and it's had a negative impact. And so we're seeing a number of distressed opportunities in both public and private markets. But because we can invest in both public and privates and anywhere in the capital structure of a company, we can invest in secured or unsecured bonds, preferred, convertible, common equity. We can identify and focus our investments on the absolute best risk reward opportunities out there. And so, and then on top of that, because we're a hedge fund structure, we can use shorts and other methods to reduce risk for each investment and isolate that risk adjusted return. So that's our plan.
Yeah, I want to bring you in here, David. You have a long career in finance, so do you, James. Hedge fund, VC, distressed, restructuring, even did some sell-side stuff. So what are you hearing from high net worth individuals when it comes to Bitcoin? I'm honestly genuinely skeptical that they want the asset itself versus the price action associated with the asset.
Yeah, look, I mean, certainly a few years ago, we saw the speculative growth in Bitcoin, right? With a lot of people entering, certainly leverage came into the space. I think ultimately we're about to move to a phase, though, where the sound money aspects of Bitcoin are going to be appreciated. And you're seeing flows clearly in the last week with the Federal Reserve suddenly turning on a dime, having to throw some QE back into the system to protect the banking system. Money flows into the sound money assets, gold, silver, and Bitcoin being sound money, and Bitcoin going to be the fastest horse in the race. And I think what you're going to see is portfolio diversification kick in, where people will diversify into this. You'll see the old 60-40 equity bond portfolio split type thing. Yeah. The negative real yield in bonds, that money's going to rotate into Bitcoin. And I think that, sound money assets right now are only 1.5% of global financial assets. At the end of the 1970s, in that inflationary period, sound money assets were almost 10% of global financial assets. So there's ways to go, and I think that you're going to see that rotation to Bitcoin. And secondly, what we see at the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund is the ability to, as the money flows into the space, the companies being built out in the space are going to grow rapidly. Think Internet 1996 as the whole ecosystem grows. And so our goal is to try and find, hopefully, the next Google and Amazons and other businesses that are going to thrive out here.
Yeah, Dave, I want to ask you a question about that specifically. How are you and the team thinking about weighing the opportunity costs of investing just in Bitcoin versus, the public companies that serve Bitcoin's financial infrastructure, right? Public miners, for example, have struggled far more than Bitcoin has over the last year or so, since, public markets are finicky and they just love overreacting. But how are you guys weighing that opportunity cost?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to portfolio diversification, that, you want to hold some core Bitcoin for sure, no doubt about it. But then if you want to kind of capture the beta and the upside of what we think is a massive growth ecosystem, again, think internet companies 1996, as the Bitcoin ecosystem grows and the payment networks grows and the whole Lightning Network just builds out all sorts of businesses, we offer the chance to go capture that upside and in the growth in those businesses, where those businesses will be very free cash flow generative. Remember, these are software type businesses, so they'll have high software type margins. You'll have cash flow, multiple expansion on that cash flow. There's a chance to portfolio diversify as well as to capture that upside to this great growth ecosystem.
Yeah. James, you talked a little bit about, we're a hedge fund, so we can short, right? But help me and the listeners understand what does a Bitcoin hedge fund do, right? Shouldn't you be long only Bitcoin? Are you really coming in here and shorting Bitcoin? Is is that sort of the dead end reason that the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund is focused on things other than Bitcoin itself?
No. The shorting and the hedging is to isolate that return, right? So every single opportunity that we see, we can layer risk management over the top of that, and using either puts or options, or we can short equity in something. So let me give you an example. So you talked about public miners, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's plenty of distressed debt in public mining out there, and whether it's secured or unsecured, what we can do is we can go in and we can value that debt against the assets and really see where those claims are on that capital structure, right? Well, there's still a possibility that company could go bankrupt. It's a definite possibility. So one of the things that we can do is we can borrow, and that's a difficult thing to do, is to source that borrow of the equity of a company that is struggling at a good price, and be able to hold that borrow, without it being bought in on us. And then we can delta hedge against that bond that we've bought, against that, whether it's secured or unsecured. We can delta hedge against that, and then move that delta according to what the price is and what's going on with those claims, and that right there will help us isolate that return, and it'll protect us in case if the company does go bankrupt. Well, then we'll make money on the short and probably some money on the claims against the assets. So that's just one example of something we might do.
That's great, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, Scott. That was James Lavish and David Foley, managing partners at the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund.